last year, the WNBA delivered the most watched regular season in 24 years and in the highest attendance in 22 years, setting records for digital consumption, too, for folks watching and merchandise sales. How do we keep, for those of us who love women in sports and love what the WNBA is doing right now, how do we keep that momentum going?
I think, well, it's a challenge for women, for us to support each other. As we know, you're going to long lengths to make sure all women's sports are on TV, which that's the thing that's always been the most important is visibility. When you learn about these athletes at an early age, like we are now with the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses and the Pages, like you get to follow their stories, which they did, you know, in the 90s and 2000s, but not at the length with social media. And that light is really what's going to make this sport go.
What occurs when the WNBA's top players decide it's time to recognize someone who has been changing the rules? In this video, we'll learn how WNBA MVPs have finally accepted Caitlin Clark's game
generation is bullish. They don't just shut up and dribble like we did. Shut up and dribble. They're loud.
When you think of
changing talent, the record she broke, and the recognition she has gained from legends of the sports international, Caitlin Clark didn't just enter the league. She redefined what's possible. When you think of basketball players who have changed the game's narrative, you typically think of the NBA's greatest players or the trailblazers who made a name for themselves during their prime. But what about those times when an unexpected talent emerges and changes the course of history before most people even realize the book has begun? Although her stats are impressive.
Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are coming up behind you. So what would you say is that they should do to have a successful career like yours?
You know, it's hard to give them advice because when I started playing was just a completely different landscape of, you know, what our generation kind of had to fight through and the things that we went through. But at the same time, you have to keep the main thing the main thing.
Caitlin Clark has changed not only how the game is played, but also how it is perceived, talked about, and understood. She has established herself as a figure who forces even the most seasoned veterans to reconsider what is feasible on the court in the third quarter. There have been many skeptics about Caitlin Clark's rise in the basketball world since she made the move from collegiate basketball to the professional scene. Hen Clark stepped onto the WNBA court. She seemed to have a presence that demanded attention. Fans couldn't take their eyes off her, but more importantly, neither could her opponent. If we go back to her college days, Clark was already known as a phenom. Her deep three-pointers and no-look passes were the stuff of highlight reels, but they were also moments that revealed her exceptional basketball IQ. Skeptics questioned whether her game would hold up after all, given how many times we've seen acclaimed college stars struggle to establish themselves among seasoned pros. When you saw her back then, you could see that she wasn't just outperforming her classmates. Rather, she was playing at a whole new level. Coaches would try to outsmart her by throwing double teams. When she made the transition to the WNBA, Clark faced obstacles she had never faced before. The players were stronger, faster, and far more experienced. Zone defenses and every possible look were used to slow her down, but she always adjusted to stay one step ahead. This adaptability became a hallmark of her playstyle and a crucial component that set her apart even before she turned pro. Some of the league's top defenders were prepared to test her abilities to see if the hype was genuine, and she went above and beyond. There's something special about seeing a rookie not only live up to expectations, but completely destroy them. Clark didn't just adapt to the league's speed and physicality, she made others adapt to her. It seemed as though she brought her own rhythm, her own pace, and demanded that the game move to her beat. What's even more remarkable is how she carried herself through it all. There's a confidence in her game that's never veered into arrogance. She's vocal on the court, no doubt, and she'll celebrate a big shot or a perfect assist, but it never comes off as performative. Instead, it feels like the kind of joy that only comes from someone who genuinely loves the game. That energy is infectious. You see it in how her teammates respond to her cutting harder, defending with more intensity, trusting that if they move, she'll find them at the perfect moment. It's a quality you can't teach a natural leadership that stems from her understanding of the game's flow. Like, we have to make sure this is the best pro do on the court. And, there's a lot of distractions now with sponsorship and endorsements. And, TV appearances, which is amazing. But you have to make sure the product is elite. When veterans of the sport, the players who have seen and done it all, start heaping. Congratulate a newcomer, because it's more than a passing gesture. As an example, consider Breanna Stewart, who has excelled in every arena, including college, the WNBA, and international tournaments. She is not one to take compliments lightly, but Stewart has publicly recognized that Clark's court vision shooting, range, and competitive drive have already made her one of the league's most captivating players. When someone like Stewart says, "You've got something special," it carries weight with Candace Parker, one of the most versatile players in the game. Parker has witnessed her fair share of extraordinary talent, and she has never held back when expressing her admiration for other athletes. Her admiration for Clark goes beyond numbers. It's about how Clark affects the game overall. Parker frequently talks about how great players can turn basketball from a sport into an occasion, and Clark claims that in Spain, the arenas where she plays are crowded, and the talk about her is continuous, and it seems like something wonderful might happen each time she takes the court. But not just today's celebrities have noticed. Game legends have also added their voices. Lisa Leslie, the WNBA's inaugural MVP, has considered how Clark could change the sport's future. Although she was originally hesitant in her evaluations, Leslie has subsequently come to accept that Clark's influence cannot be denied. It's more important to consider what Clark represents for the upcoming generation of athletes than merely what she accomplished during her debut season. In a new era of basketball, where the distinctions between men's and women's playstyles grow even more pronounced, she serves as a link between the old guard. Dynamic. The league's all-time top scorer, Diana Taurasi, has also had to reconsider her first impressions. As a player who has made a living by competing fiercely, Taurasi understands what it takes to be successful at the highest level. At first, she wasn't sure that Clark's skill set would translate, but after witnessing her steady performances and her capacity for handling pressure, Taurasi has joined the chorus of voices giving her the credit she deserves. What makes Clark's story so captivating isn't just her talent or her stats. It's also about how she dominates the game, how she conducts herself, and how she uplifts everyone around her. Because of the way she has altered the discourse surrounding women's basketball, fans who may not have previously watched a WNBA game are now closely following her every action. Her jersey sales have skyrocketed. She has made basketball seem exciting and approachable to a whole new audience, and in doing so, she has contributed to the league's growth in ways that are difficult to measure. When you consider the history of basketball, there are very few players who have genuinely changed the course of the sport in the WNBA. Her highlights are widely shared on social media, and her interviews show a young player who understands both the seriousness of her role and the joy of playing the sport she loves.